Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to help you make that difficult choice of which prime lens should you buy. So first of all, let me just explain what a prime lens is. So a prime lens is a lens with a fixed focal length, and some of the most common ones are 35mm and 50 or 55mm thereabouts. Now, when you bought your first camera, you probably bought it with a kit lens, which is usually a zoom, and that'll be maybe 18 to 55 if you bought something with what is known as a crop sensor. If you don't know what that is, check out my video on how to choose a camera. Now, if you've got a full frame camera, that lens was probably 24 to 70. And you're wondering now, actually, would it be nice if I could just go out with something a bit easier to carry, maybe just take one lens? Which lens would I buy? And I'm going to show you a very nifty Lightroom hack that will help you make that decision, but also give you some tips and tricks on which prime lens to choose. Now, if you're new to this channel, I'm Richard Gill. I'm a professional photographer. On here, I give tips and tricks to help you take better photos, show you some tips in Lightroom on how to develop them. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please do subscribe to the channel. So let's look at which prime lens should I buy. Now, the first thing is to understand what the benefits of using that prime lens are. Now, there are a few of them that spring immediately to mind. One is they tend to be fast. What do we mean by fast? What we mean is they go to very wide apertures, so you can use them in low light conditions. They may even go to something like f1.2, but almost certainly you'll get them at f2.8 or wider. Now, the other thing they tend to do is they tend to produce a really nice image quality, just because of the quality of the optics in there. They haven't got all these multiple elements that you're trying to juggle when you're zooming. And if you're into things like bokeh, those lovely little spots you get of light that is just out of focus in your backgrounds, then they can be really excellent at doing that. The other nice thing about them is they're compact, light, easy to carry around. Now, there are two common sizes that you might be thinking about. One would be 50mm like this one, and the other would be a 35mm. Now, the reason they are the two common sizes that we all think about is if you've got a crop sensor camera, then 35mm is very close to matching the focal length of your eye. Similarly, if you've got a full frame camera, then the 50 or 55mm will match your what you see with your eye. So from a composition point of view, very easy to show people who are going to view your photographs what you saw in the scene and why you composed it that way. Now, I mentioned a very nifty Lightroom hack, so I'll show you how you do that. Let's head over into Lightroom. So the first thing to do is open your Lightroom catalog and make sure you've got all photographs selected. And then you want to bring up the option to search by particular things. So if you press the backslash key, you then get a menu at the top which allows you to search on text, attribute, metadata, and none. Now, for this example, we're going to choose metadata. And what we want to do is look at what focal length we've taken most of our photographs at. Now, in my case, I do a lot of commercial property work, so I know it's going to be skewed to taking a lot of photographs wide angles for property interiors, and that's not really what I'm interested in when I'm trying to decide on a prime lens for my own creative photography. But you see what I've got here. I've got over 90,000 photos since 2016, so since I've started this Lightroom catalog. and I've got a number of cameras, and there are a lot of cameras on here, and that's partly because I've imported photos from other people when maybe I've been doing tutorials or something like that, and they've given me test photos to work with. So I'm going to choose the camera I'm using now, which for me is a Sony a7 III. So this is the Sony part number ILCE 7M3. And then I've set up here my table, so I've got lens and I've got focal length. Now if you don't know how to do that, Lightroom will put up some default column headings. If you just click on one of the column headings, you can then choose all sorts. You can even choose a camera's serial number. But what we're interested in is focal length, and we're also interested in lens. Now the common lens that I would use, well, I'm thinking about should I buy a 35 or 50mm prime, would be a 24-70 zoom. So if I click on that, I can then see all the photos I took with that 24-70 zoom. But I'm not particularly interested in browsing the photos so much. What I am interested in is the exact focal length I took them at. And you'll see, actually I took quite a chunk at 70mm, 1,000 photos, and the rest are spread out. And I'm pretty sure there'll be some at the 24mm end, because that's the other end that you tend to shoot at when you're can't be bothered to change lenses, and you really should have put your other lens on. But if I look right now in the middle of this spread, you'll see that around the 50mm mark it starts to build up, and I've got quite a lot that are taken in the 50mm chunk. Now I already own a couple of prime lenses. I own a 35 and a 55, and if I look at the 35, so I've taken 2,300 photos on that. Now I know from my own personal experience that's a little bit skewed, because I do use that a lot in my property shots when I'm trying to take some nice little cameos, some little close-up shots. I want to show the room behind it, so 35mm works really well, and I'm using a full frame camera. But you'll also see that I've taken nearly 3,000 at 55mm, because that's my other default lens. I really love taking photos like that. It feels very human to me, and that's why I would look at that. So I can see in those two straight away that I'm taking around a similar amount in both. But what I'm thinking about when I'm making that final decision as which prime should I buy is, what am I interested in taking as a photographer? Is it those wide angle shots in rooms with some nice little detail in the foreground? And to be honest, it's not. I mean, I am interested in those from a commercial point of view, because I know I will sell a lot of those photos. So I would buy a 35mm lens for that reason. You can select multiple focal lengths in Lightroom. So you could see all the ones that are roughly 50mm, for example. So if I click on the first one at 47, and then I scroll down, let's go from 47 to 60 for example, press the shift key, it'll select all the ones in between. Now I can have a little look through my photos and think, yeah, those are the kind of shots that I really enjoy taking. Just looking through these, a lot of them are some commercial stuff, but here's some stuff I've taken for fun, and I know that yeah, I've used them at weddings, family weddings and things. So that's going to be a nice choice for me. So Lightroom's really helped me home in on exactly which focal length I need. I hope this video has helped you make the right choice and you've been able to choose a great prime lens to add to your kit and to add to your enjoyment of photography. In short, the answer might be, well, if I've got a crop frame sensor, I'm going to use a 35mm lens, and if I've got a full frame, I'm going to use the 50 or 55mm lens. But do bear in mind your own style. If you take a lot of portraits or you're into street photography, you might find that the 35mm lens on a crop sensor means you have to get a little bit close to your subject, maybe more close than you're comfortable with. If you can get over that fear, it will make your photos even better, because the closer you get, generally the better shot you'll get. But if you're just starting out, you might feel, actually, I'm going to start with that 55mm lens on my crop sensor, just because you want to make your life a little bit more easy and you want to stand away a little bit further from your subject. So bear in mind your own creative style and where you are at in your photography before you make the final choice. Now, I'd love to hear what you go ahead and do, so please leave your comments on what lens you decided to choose and how you're getting along with it. And if you've enjoyed this video, it would be great if you could give it a like as well, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.